very tight program, and because of religious reasons, we need to finish by about 3 o'clock. So our time is in fact very limited. So I'm going to appeal to people to please be punctual and be on time. Can I first call upon a granddaughter, Miss Kristen Whitley, to read the obituary?
Obituary of Yasmin Jessie Duarte, 19th September 1953 to 17th July 2022. Yasmin Duarte, lovingly known as Comrade Jessie, was born in the township of New Clare, Johannesburg, to Ibrahim and Julie Dangle. She was the fifth born of the 9 siblings and the only daughter. She completed high school at Coronationville High. After school, she joined an exchange program to the United States, living with an American family with whom she remained in touch till the end of her life. Jessie grew up in a family that valued ideas and books, as well as rigorous debate and argument. This laid the foundation for her activism. She was also an avid art collector and music lover. In the 1970s, influenced by her experience, travels, and other activists that came into contact with, she became involved in the Black consciousness movement. By 1979, she already played a leading role in the women's movement under the mentorship of Mum Albertina Sisulu. In 1981, she was elected as the Secretary of Federation of Transvaal Women. As a leader of the FEDRA, Comrade Jessie played a critical role in the rebuilding of South African women's movement, traveling across the country to help form the structures in the then Northern, Eastern and Western Transvaal, Eastern Cape and Border, and Western Cape and Natal. Working together with Master Sulu, she was also the contact person for links between the internal and external women's movement, as well as the South African Communist Party through Ray Alexander. At the same time, she was mother to 2 young children, Yusha, born in 1975, and Zoe, born in 1977, whilst also taking care of her younger siblings, Abbas and Zain Dangle. The women's movement played an important role in the formation of the UDF in 1983, along with the trade union, civic and youth and student movements. And throughout the 1980s, Comrade Jessie was an activist in all campaigns of the UDF, including going door to door during the tri-cameral parliament campaign. During the early 1980s, she worked with Reverend Bayers Norwood to set up and administer a scholarship fund to educate and skill ANC and UDF activists, developing a progressive corps of public servants. She was detained without trial in 1988, released and placed under restriction orders until the state of emergency was lifted. With the formation of organs of People's Power in the 1980s, she played a role in organizing underground operations through identification of safe houses, women who acted as couriers, and the distribution of the recipe book for military operations. Like many activists of the time, Jessie and her family were harassed by regime and isolated in her community, yet she remained steadfast. According to the family, the Dangors had greater access to books than food, and Comrade Jessie saw books as essential to life. This nurtured her enduring love for literature, writing, and storytelling. She worked at progressive publisher Raven Press, established in 1972, and encouraged authors like Jacina Klopel and Bobby Schneider. Comrade Jessie was one of the founders of the Congress of South African Writers, launched in July 1978 to mobilize progressive writers and nurture the alternative press. Her activism and commitment to the working class was another enduring commitment. As COSATU was being formed, she played a role in mobilizing domestic workers and was part of the strike committee for the 1987 National Union of Mine Workers strike. After the unbanning of the ANC in 1990, she served on the interim leadership corps of the then Pretoria Witwatersrand region, now Gauteng, to rebuild the ANC. She was also instrumental in the re-establishment of the SACP. She was tasked with setting up the offices of Comrades Nelson Mandela and Walter Sisulu, and served as Comrade Mandela's special assistant from 1990 to 1994. In the heat of the apartheid-sponsored violence, during the early 1990s, she worked closely with Comrade Ronnie Casseroles in the East Rand and West Rand to assist the establishment of self-defense units, and went on to be a part of the National Peace Accord structures. During the negotiations leading to democracy in South Africa, from 1991 to 1994, she was a member of the Regional Executive Committee for the PWV region. Comrade Jessie was amongst the pioneering members of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature and served in the provincial cabinet as the first MEC for Community Safety and Security in Gauteng, pioneering the concept of community policing, focusing on domestic violence and social crime prevention. As MEC for Community Security, Safety and Security, she participated in the Johannesburg Pride marches and remained a companion for LGBTQI+ rights. She was also a firm advocate for the decriminalization of sex work. These issues were all part of her fight to protect the rights and indigeneity of all vulnerable and exploited groups. From 1999 to 2003, she served as South Africa's High Commissioner to Mozambique. A critical period of strengthened relations between the two countries. She also served in the Department of International Relations and Cooperation as the Deputy Director General for Africa. As the newly formed African Union started to take shape, with South Africa playing a leading role. Comrade Jessie Duarte was elected to the National Executive Committee of the ANC in 1997 at the 50th National Conference in Mafeking. She also served as the international spokesperson for the ANEC and was elected Deputy Secretary General of the ANC in 2012 at the 53rd National Conference, re-elected at the next conference, and a position she held until her passing on 17th July 2022. Comrade Jessie was an internationalist, a fighter for the rights of oppressed peoples everywhere, especially women and children. Her commitment to the cause of the people of Palestine, Western Sahara, and against the Cuban blockade remained unwavering. During her final days, in the midst of her struggle with cancer, she initiated a book project to tell the story of the rebuilding of women's movement during the 1980s. Comrade Jessie will be remembered as a fierce and unapologetic proponent of the non-racialism, an outspoken fighter for the rights of women, and a loving matriarch of the Dango, Duarte, and Whitley families. She is survived by her children, Yusha and Zoe, grandchildren Kristen, Monique, Mu'in, and Amira, and remaining siblings Mohammed, Musa, Abbas, and Zain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I now call upon Mr. Zain Dango to pay a tribute on behalf of the family?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mohammed, Mr. President, Premier, Ministers, Ambassadors, and family and friends and Jessie's comrades. Kristen and Monique gave a really good, detailed outline of Jessie's life, and other people will be talking about her life as an activist, a community builder, a diplomat, and political leader. I want to reflect on Jessie, the mother, grandmother, sister, and aunt. I will reflect on some abstracts from Zoe, her daughter. Zoe wrote a letter to Jessie, her mom, in the last few weeks of Jessie's life. And I use Zoe's letter as it speaks to the thoughts and feelings of all of us. Zoe wrote the following in a very long letter, and I'll only be using some excerpts. Mom, I've been at your side, watched you, helped you day and night, your energy decreasing. You lost weight and you wanted space so that we don't see the pain you are in. I could also see, Mom, how little had changed. Your smile is still the same, still warm. Your laugh never changed throughout. This passage from Zoe's letter epitomizes the Jessie we know. This is not always the same Jessie that is sometimes portrayed in the media. What Zoe is describing is the Jessie that always put the needs of others first. At the time when she was experiencing the most unimaginable pain, she wanted to shield us from witnessing that pain, as she knew that it would cause us distress. This selfless nature of embracing of the other was part of Jessie's DNA. Learning from our mom, Julie, she sacrificed her own comfort and well-being to take care of others. My brother Abbas, John Duarte's brother Emmanuel, my brother Musa as well at some stage, and myself all know this too well. Jessie and John took us into their homes at a time when they had very little, but they shared that little with us as we had nowhere else to go. This nurturing and looking after the well-being of others extended to non-family members too. Strangers in the need of shelter knew that they could come to her house, whether it be in Nuclear, Reveille, or Observatory, and they knew that they would find a warm bed, food, and comfort, irrespective of how small the space was. In Nuclear and Rivoli, the houses were small, but she would tell us to shift up whenever people were in need of shelter and care. Patrick Flusk was one of those, and he reminded us how Abbas and I had to shift up for him, and we didn't have a single bed to share between us, but he stayed with us for a very long time, and Yusha ended up on the floor. Yeah. So, Jessie's houses therefore became known as the shift-up houses. When I asked the son, Yusha, what you would like to say to his mom now, if he had the chance, he said, it would be 2 words only. Thank you. That expression of gratitude comes from all of us in the family, as all of us at some time or the other were blessed by her kindness and caring nature. Yusha, we all join you in saying, thank you, Jessie. Ursula, my wife, sums up Jessie's our gratitude towards Jessie when she says, in her note when I asked what she would like to say, she said, my dearest Jessie, I've said this to you before and I'll say it again. Thank you for all that you have meant to me, Zayn, and the grandkids. You have always been in our corner, guiding us and showing us what it means to have compassion, kindness, and integrity. So, Jessie, as a family, we celebrate your life. We are proud that you, our mother, our sister, grandmother, and aunt, we are proud of your contributions to this country and to our family. Saying that you were among the best of us is not just a slogan, because we have experienced your generosity and support. And indeed, for us, you were the best. I will conclude by again referencing Zoe's letter to Jessie. Zoe wrote the following: Mom, when the doctors told us that it's not looking good and you only have weeks or a few months to live, then, Mom, it was days, and time flashed before my eyes. We need more time, Mom. So we also then reflected on Jessie's pain in those last few weeks when she wrote, Mom, your body is slowing down. I ask God for peace, the peace of knowing that you will rest in peace. These words by Zoe sum up the sentiments of the entire family. We celebrated Jessie's life, but we also knew the pain she was in, and therefore we are grateful and comforted that she is now free from that pain, that she can now soar in the afterlife, light, happy, and with that distinctive smile and laughter that we all know. Jessie, if you can hear us, we want you to know we loved you, we cherished you, and above all, we want to thank you. Hamba Gashle, Jessie.
Can I now call upon Mr. Paul Mashatile, the Treasurer General of the ANC, to speak on behalf of the ANC? I'm not too sure. Paul is Treasurer General, Secretary General, Deputy Secretary General.
You know, I'm not used to be called Mr. Mashatile. You know, I worked with Comrade Dango for many years. In fact, Comrade Mohamed Dango at some point was the treasurer of the ANC in Gauteng when I was secretary. So thank you very much, Comrade Dango. Let me firstly greet the President of the ANC, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, all officials of the ANC, the members of the National Executive Committee of the ANC, the leadership of the Alliance, SAC, Picosatu, and Sanko. I saw Comrade Soli earlier when I was coming in. He was elected 3 days ago, new from the box, as a new GS of the party. Welcome, Comrade Soli and the other leaders. To the family of Duarte, Dango, and Whitley, on behalf of the African National Congress, National Executive Committee, I bring our sincere condolences to all of you. But not only to you as family, but to the big family of the African National Congress and the Alliance. As we convey our condolences to you, we also convey our condolences to ourselves. Also, remembering that Comrade Jessie worked for many years in this province, I would like to appreciate the presence of the leadership of the African National Congress in this province, Comrade Banyaza, TK, and other leaders of the ANC in Gauteng. Thanks for having been there all the time. And I can see, Comrade President, these comrades, they are really up to the task. When I phoned at 2 a.m., I was able to find them. So I realized, oh no, so we've elected the right people. They don't sleep. Thank you very much, comrades. I think continue to hold the fort. I've worked with Comrade Jessie for many years. I think the obituary says it all. Comrade Jessie was instrumental in the formation of the Federation of Transvaal Women, working with comrades like Nomvula Mokonyane, Susan Shabangu, and many others. But really, their anchor being Umama Albertina Sisulu. But they didn't end up and say, look, we are focusing on women struggles, gender struggles. They became leaders in their own right in the struggle as we fought the apartheid regime, but also as we started to rebuild the structures of our movement. Comrade Jessie was there. I recall very well that when the ANC was unbanned in 1990, there's a small committee that was formed to start rebuilding structures of the ANC in Gauteng. At the time, it was called Southern Transvaal. Yes, Southern Transvaal. It was PWV, then Southern Transvaal. Comrade Jessie was part of that team. We worked with her. And at a later stage, when we won the elections, Comrade Tokyo was our premier, and I was the secretary, and Comrade Tokyo called me and said, hey, Mrena, we need to set up a government. So who do we bring as the executive? And you're supposed to have someone as MEC for safety, to deal with the police. And in truth, at a time where I was thinking about, some strong male comrade, and Comrade Tokyo says, no, Jessie Duarte. So I said, no, that's fine. I think let's go with Comrade Jessie Duarte. And as you know, Comrade Jessie is short. Many guys in the police, or let me say many people in the police are men, or that time they were men, many of them white, big, and now here this short woman is going to lead them. But she did an amazing job. And I think those who worked with Jessie at the time will know that she did an amazing job in that responsibility as a MEC for safety in Gauteng. Of course, she went on to other responsibilities, as the obituary says. I won't go into that. All I want to say for today, really, we want to convey our sincere condolences to the family. We want to say to the family, thank you for having allowed Comrade Jessie to be part of this movement. You never said, Comrade Jessie, you you are being harassed by police, they are also harassing us, stop what you are doing. You allowed her to continue. She went to prison, she came out, she continued. Last year, when we were running the election campaign for local government, I worked very close with Comrade Jessie in what I call a very difficult campaign. We didn't have enough resources, and Comrade Jessie didn't blame me to say, SG, but it's your problem. We don't have money. She understood the problem we had, and we had to juggle around with very meager resources, and the officials will meet, President, Comrade Chair, myself, look at where we can get something. So we campaigned, and one day we were doing a press briefing. I think it was just before the voting. So Comrade Nkenke was on my left, Comrade Jessie was on my right. So I said something like, comrades, we must ensure that we keep the ANC under 50%. So both of them, they hit me on the side. And Comrade Jessie is short, so I had to lean to her to say, what's wrong? He said, over 50%. So I said, Comrade Jessie, what did I say? He says, you said under. And she was smiling the way you see her, looking at me with that smile. I said, you said under. And after that, we were relaxed and we were laughing about it as always with Comrade Jessie. Always very smiling, but Jessie can be a fighter. All of you who knows her, you know she fights. When she believes in an idea, she fights. And even the media people know. So I said to her, Comrade Jessie, hey, you are fighting with these media people. Say, yeah, Paul, man, you must tell them. They go and write things there. But Comrade Jessie is someone, when she agrees with you, she'll never betray you. Especially if your cause is correct. She will be with you forever. You know that slogan, no surrender. With Comrade Jessie, we don't surrender. If we agree that this is correct, we go for it. So we want to say to comrades today, we don't have a lot of time. We will have a memorial, hopefully on Thursday, where we'll be able to, allow many of you to be able to speak. The Communist Party, where Comrade Jessie was a leader, with myself, Comrade Nomvula, COSATU, where she worked with workers, and we'll also allow the Women's League to be able to speak, the Youth League, because Jessie also helped young people. We will do that on Thursday. So don't feel today we are being suppressed. But the comrades said, I must try and speak for all of you, the Alliance, for today. But Thursday, we will have enough time for us really to pay tribute to this selfless woman who worked for our people until the end. So I want to say, fare thee well, my sister. Comrade Jessie, you've done your work. We're still expecting more from Comrade Jessie. When she got sick, we didn't know that she was sick at the time. When Comrade Jessie said, I'm feeling tired, Comrade Paul, to take a break, I thought it's fatigue because of the elections. And he said to me, Comrade Paul, please take over my responsibilities. I'm going to try and rest a bit. And the officials of the ANC says, yes, indeed, please try and do the work that Comrade Jessie was doing until she's back. So we're hoping and hoping against hope. But we are proud that we had the opportunity to know her. We had an opportunity to work with her. Setilala Motolo, our sister, will continue your legacy of selflessness, of discipline, of hard work, and more importantly, of caring for the poor. Comrade National Chair, we will not surrender. We will be like Comrade Jessie, President, no surrender until our people can have a better life. Let me conclude on that note. I realized when I was greeting everybody that I missed Comrade Mkulu. I didn't see you for some reason with Memutante. We also pay our respect to you. Comrade Premier, I can see you are on the ground. I didn't see you are in here because you are wearing overalls. So we pay respect to you. You also had an opportunity to work with Comrade Jessie. Re a leboga re ga tsamaye ka khotso ausi wa rona a cancer inkomo.
Let me just say, I was following instructions to read out the program as it is, and it said Mr. and not Comrade. So Comrade Paul, please stand here, and I call upon Comrade Mantash and Comrade Nomvula Mokanyani to please come up, remove the ANC flag, and hand it over to Comrade Paul that he can hand over to the family. Thank you.
Thanks, Tango. Mr. Mashatile, sir. But sorry, no. Which one is Zoe? Which one is Zoe? The son must give it to Zoe. The one next to Sarah.
Yeah, the one next to Sarah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. The President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, the family of the deceased, and all protocol observed. I am now going to call upon Sergeant Kanyata to lead the draping of the coffin with the South African national flag. Sergeant Kanyata. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you are all requested to rise for the playing of the national anthem on behalf of the Republic of South Africa, which will be led by the South African Police Service Band. All members in uniform, you are all requested to salute during the playing of the national anthem. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may be seated.
The Duarte and Dango families, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, President Motlanthe and both Skuku, the Premier, and the Premiers, I say one, there may be more. Members of Parliament, I saw the Speaker of Parliament, Umamu Mapisa Ngagula. Members of Parliament, I saw the Chair of the NCOP, ministers, MECs, mayors, councillors, leaders of political parties, leaders of business, and all protocol observed. We are now just going to call upon the Premier of Gauteng, but maybe before I call upon the Premier of Gauteng, I just want to say something about Jessie, just one sentence. That we've said everything. We didn't say she had a keen sense of humor. And I want to read you something that she sent me when the regulations of COVID were lifted. And she sent me this message. And she, she was already very sick then, but she sent me this message. I still have masks. The virus does not read the government gazette. So that was Jessie. So on that note, the Premier of Gauteng, the Honorable David Makura, over to you.
Amandla. Amandla. Thank you, comrades. I was reconfirming that the program directors are really chasing time. Thank you very much. I want to acknowledge the program directors, Ambassador Mohamed Dango and Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. The Dango, Duarte and Weekly family, His Excellency, our President Cyril Ramaphosa, President Motlanthe and Mrs. Gugu Motlanthe, the leadership of the African National Congress, from the national officials, the National Executive Committee, the Provincial Executive Committee, led by the provincial officials, the leadership of the South African Communist Party, members of the diplomatic community gathered here to bid farewell to Ambassador Jessie Duarte, our religious leaders, comrades and friends. On behalf of the people and the government of our province, we convey our heartfelt condolences to the family on the passing of our first MEC for Community Safety and Security in Gauteng. The news of her passing reached me on a night that was a terrible one. We were out in the streets of Alexandra with MEC Faith Mazibuko and the police, law enforcement agencies doing anti-crime operations, and were then called to come to the south of Johannesburg, Tembelihle, just next to Lenasia. On that site, 6 people were shot last night. 4 of them succumbed to gunshot wounds. We were working there doing the work that our first MEC would have taught everybody to do with law enforcement. We left there in Tembelihle at 2 o'clock, and by that time we were told there was another shooting at Mutswaledi, informal settlement near Diepkloof, where 8 people were shot. 1 of them passed on. The TG was running around looking for us. I want to say that what Comrade Jessie taught us is that even when it is very tough, we must fight on. The law enforcement agencies in this province have been facing this terrible trend of shootings. We know in Alexandra they have arrested people. In Soweto they will announce arrest in the coming week of those who did the shootings that happened there. 16 people died. We are confident they will also announce arrest in the course of this week of some of these incidents. Our country cannot be taken over by criminals. And I want to assure Comrade Jessie, as we bid farewell to him, to her, our first MEC for community safety, that we shall overcome, we shall win the war against crime. But I want to say 2 other things that were very, very close to Comrade Jessie's heart. So as the first MEC, she was in the front line of the battle against crime. But one thing you can't forget about Jessie Duarte was that she was very passionate about non-racialism. She was deeply, there was no discussion, many of you in the NEC, and I'm sure President, the official would say so. There was no time you will discuss about the ANC, and she will not draw to our attention the fact that if not regressing, we are actually losing the battle against one of the fundamental principles that informed the struggle for freedom in our country, non-racialism. Even on that TG, I want to say, as you said, there can be no retreat on that. As we talk about renewal, the work we do everywhere else, this fundamental question that Comrade Jessie would have wanted to be put in the forefront of everything we do, non-racialism is something we must continue to fight for. But Jessie was also, she was passionate about gender equality. Very, very passionate about gender equality. She was a feminist of a special kind. She wouldn't complete a discussion without talking about where the ANC is on women. Like she wouldn't complete a discussion about, but ANC, why are we moving in reverse on non-racialism? Extremely passionate about a non-sexist society, a non-racial society. The third thing she was passionate about, she wanted socioeconomic justice in our country. She wouldn't think we are having any serious discussion if we don't go to the root cause, to the foundational structural issues facing our country. So she was very central to the struggle about the transformation of our country up to that last moment. I want to conclude by speaking on behalf of a generation of students who were beneficiaries of that one work she did. You know, one thing about Jessie is that she crisscrossed every sector of struggle: women, trade unions, civics, youth. She worked with us as students. I'm one of those students, and one of the students sent me a message that, Premier, we know you are speaking as Premier, but please don't forget, Jessie was very central to, and with Keith Bingle and Dr. Bears Nodie, they mobilized huge resources for bursaries for many students throughout the country, students who went to study in the various campuses, and these were activists, essentially focusing on activists. And as we bid farewell to her, I want to thank her. I want to thank Comrade Jessie, our first MEC for community safety, our ambassador. I had an occasion when she invited me to Mozambique when she was the ambassador there. I had a very good time there with her, and she was introducing me to a lot of Frelimo people there. I want to say to her, Comrade Jessie, there's a generation of young people. They are no longer young anymore, I must confess. Okay, no longer too young anymore. A generation of young people who really deeply appreciate what you did for them. Working with Keith Bingle on Dr. Bears Nodie, you sent us to university. You mobilized resources to ensure that we study at those universities, but also we take up the cudgels for the struggle. So on behalf of those students, I want to thank you. And I know that I see many women activists. I don't know whether they are still activists, Sis Daphne. I see many who are sitting here who worked with Jessie left, right, and center. And she leaves this huge imprint in our country. We really, really appreciate what she did for our country. She was a great patriot. One thing I will miss is the phone calls that I had long, I don't know how many of you can't speak with Jessie for a short while. When there's a problem, I would have a long phone call at midnight. And you have to have enough time for her to take you all the troubles and the things you feel. And after that, she says, you know what? You are a good comrade. Comrade Jessie, you were a wonderful comrade, a great comrade. You are still a great comrade to many of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Comrade David. The Premier, indeed, she was the best amongst us. She was the bravest amongst us. Yes, disciplined. But let me now call upon His Excellency, the President of the Republic, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa.
Thank you. Let's be seated. Program Directors, Ambassador Dengo, and Minister Dlamini Zuma, the Duarte, Dengo, and Whitley families, President Kgalema Motlanthe and Megugu Motlanthe, former Premier of Gauteng, Mr. Tokyo Sexwale, the Premier of Gauteng, Dr. David Makura, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Nosiviwe Mapisa Nqakula, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Ubaba Amos Masondo, the leadership of the African National Congress, as led here by the National Chairperson and the TG, and members of the National Executive Committee, the leadership of the Alliance, is represented by the leaders of the SSCP and COSATU, and leaders of the Democratic Movement, religious leaders who are here present, and business leaders, and comrades and friends who are here. We are gathered here in sorrow and in disbelief. Although our beloved comrade Jessie has been gravely ill for several months, as many of us know, it is difficult to comprehend that someone with such vitality and energy and spirit has departed from this earth and has been taken away from us. We all feel like she has been taken away from us before we all had an opportunity to say goodbye to her. As officials of the African National Congress, we had arranged to see her today at 2 p.m. And we had seen her a few months ago, and when we saw her then, we were encouraged by the progress that we thought she was making in dealing very bravely with her illness. This passing of Comrade Jessie today is a really sad moment for all of us. Earlier, the family, I did shed a tear because I remembered the conversations that she and I used to have, particularly about the place where we were born. I was born in Western Native Township, just a street across from where she was born in Nuclear. And we used to reminisce about playing in all those areas. We were separated by a main road. One area was meant for Africans and the other area was meant for coloreds. But we were glad that as we grew up and matured politically, joined the Black Consciousness movement, and then finally the Congress movement, we were united in our determination to work together to bring an end to the horror of apartheid. I think we should use this moment not so much to mourn Comrade Jessie Duarte, but to celebrate her hugely impactful life, as we have heard. Comrade Jessie was a faithful, dedicated, and fiercely loyal leader of the African National Congress. It is difficult to imagine the ANC without our beloved Deputy Secretary General, and to think that we will never again hear her voice and her humorous laughter carrying down the corridors of Luthuli House. For close on to 10 years, she served as the ANC's Deputy Secretary General. For 25 years, she served on the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress. And from the years of her youth to her final days, she served the people of South Africa with distinction, with dedication, with humility, and with passion. And that is why it was a fairly straightforward and easy decision for me as President of the Republic to declare that she should have an official funeral today. And I'm rather pleased, Premier Makura, that the Gauteng government was able to organize this funeral within hours so that we can give her the dignified and decent send-off that we are giving her today. And I also want to thank the family for being cooperative and working with our staff in the presidency as well as at the Premier's level to enable this send-off to be as dignified as it is. Comrade Jessie worked alongside great leaders of our struggle. She learned the politics of liberation from leaders such as Umama or Albertina Sisulu, and leaders such as Umbey, Beyers Nodie, as well as Madiba. From them, she imbibed the qualities of revolutionary leadership, qualities that she was to demonstrate in every position that she occupied. Somehow, despite the great qualities that she has learned from various revolutionary leaders, she found a way to mix those qualities with her own dynamism, her own inherent, vibrant, and dynamic nature enabled her to bring about a wonderful mix of the qualities she was taught and her natural talent as a leader. As we worked with her, some of us got to realize the truism in the saying that dynamite comes in small packages. Comrade Jessie was the typical and the quintessential dynamite. She was small, she was short, but she was also well packaged as a small revolutionary dynamite. She had qualities that she was able to pass on to others, as we have heard, to students and many other people that she worked with. Throughout her life, Comrade Jessie was a dynamic organizer. She was an organizer of women, and she was also a great feminist. As the secretary of the Federation of Transvaal Women, FETRO, she was part of building and leading a powerful women's movement that directly challenged the oppression of black women and shook the foundations of the apartheid state. She mobilized women across the country to resist the restrictions imposed upon them by a racist and sexist political system and a patriarchal society. Like the generations that had come before, like the defiant women who burnt their passes in 1913, like the defiant 20,000 women who marched on the Union buildings in 1956, Comrade Jessie was determined that women should occupy their rightful place in the struggle for national liberation. I often derive a great deal of joy when we have visiting heads of state, when we take them to the Union buildings and I show them what Imbogoto really means. There is the representation of the stone that looks like a calabash with another stone on top of it, that celebrates and represents the Women's March, 20,000 women in 1956. And we have inscribed the slogans and the constitutional principles that underpinned the March of the Women in 1956. So in remembering Comrade Jessie, that representation of the Imbogoto at the Union buildings came to mind. We remember her immense contribution to the hearings of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission on the experience of women who were detained in apartheid jails. We remember the courage with which she spoke against the abuse of women, not just by the apartheid security forces, but within the ranks of our liberation movement and also the abuse of women generally in the country. Even in the democratic era, Comrade Jessie was relentless in advancing the position of women in all areas of public and private life. She confronted the patriarchal attitudes and practices that sought to diminish the role and contribution of women in parliament, in government, and across society as a whole. She did not hesitate to confront inadequate representation of women in the structures of the African National Congress itself. Comrade Jessie was also an organizer of workers, as we have heard. Her involvement in the mobilization of domestic workers was part of a lifelong commitment to the struggles of the working class. When the great miners' strike of 1987 took place, she was one amongst many in our community who organized themselves as part of the strike committee that was there to assist the 340,000 mine workers who went on strike for 21 days. As we heard, Comrade Jessie was also an organizer of writers. Her role in the formation of the Congress of South African Writers and her work for Raven Press revealed not only her love for literature, but also her conviction that writing, art, and culture serve as a powerful instrument of empowerment and liberation. Comrade Jessie said last year she was looking forward to writing books during her retirement. It is our ardent wish that the family should find time to publish some of the work that she has produced so that future generations may draw inspiration from the record of a fine activist. Comrade Jessie was an outstanding and gifted organizer of activists, working closely with Madiba, alongside Comrade Frini Junwala and Comrade Barbara Masekela in Comrade Mandela's office. She firmly believed that the people are their own liberators, as Madiba believed. She was never content to remain closeted in an office, to sit on a stage, or to direct the struggle from the comfort of a boardroom. Mama Albertina Sisulu taught her that a good leader should always be among the people, in the community, in the front line, in homes, in the pathways of our rural areas, and in the streets of our towns and townships. Wherever there was suffering, where families were mourning, where students were organizing, you would find Comrade Jessie. You'd find her there offering comfort, offering hope and encouragement. Comrades have remarked that whenever Comrade Jessie entered a room where people were mourning, she was able to immediately comfort those in pain with her kind and encouraging words. She was gracious, compassionate, and always kind. She was always there, teaching, organizing, and mobilizing. Comrade Jessie never missed a beat. She was on top of every issue. She did lead with distinction, and she always made her voice heard. To whomever she had to speak, whether it was Madiba, whether it was Walter Sisulu, even as she disagreed with positions that had been taken, she would always be speaking out. It was a matter of great distress to her that she felt that the movement to which she had dedicated her life had grown distant from the people they were given the responsibility to serve. She was continuously pained by what she perceived as a move away from the non-racialism principle that had been the foundation on which the African National Congress was built. She felt that we were not laying enough emphasis on promoting and advancing non-racialism in our country. This is a deficiency that we are now called upon to remedy. Drawing on her example, we should, as leaders and activists, humble ourselves before our people and correct some of those issues that Comrade Jessie was pained by. We are called upon to restore the values of our Constitution and our movement. We must take up the concerns and champion the interests of the people of this country, particularly the workers, the poor, and the vulnerable. Above all, we need to work together with the people to improve their lives and to transform our society. As we heard Comrade Makura saying, one of the key issues that troubled Comrade Jessie was the socio-economic position and suffering of many of our people. The inequality and the poverty that continues in our country troubled her. Comrades and friends, the Holy Quran says, stand firmly for justice, even if it is against yourselves, against your parents, against your kin, against rich or poor. Jessie Duarte's sense of justice was keen. Her sympathies for the poor, the vulnerable, the destitute, and the marginalized ran deep. She had empathy and was able to walk in other people's shoes and see through their eyes. It is this that enabled her to see the suffering of our people and empathize with them. She took up their cause and stood firm on her own principles, even when her stance attracted criticism or even personal attack. She was a champion of the oppressed everywhere. She will forever be remembered for the commitment to the cause of people, the people of Palestine, the people of Western Sahara, and indeed championing the cause of ending the boycott or the embargo against the Cuban people. And she will forever be remembered for keeping these issues alive in South Africa and in the minds of our people. Comrade Jessie indeed had great courage. She was at the forefront of the fight against the apartheid state at the height of its most cruel and oppressive stage. Who can forget the power of her intervention during the inquest into the death of Ahmed Timol 5 years ago, when she exposed the lies of the security branch, telling the world what she and her family had witnessed and endured at their cruel hands. She also had the courage to speak out honestly and directly about the abuses and destructive tendencies she saw within her movement and within democratic governance. At a time like this, our nation needs more people of her courage and consciousness. Our nation calls out for people who are not afraid to confront wrongdoing and to speak hard truths. Our nation calls out for people who will, even in the face of severe resistance, champion the values of honesty, integrity, selflessness, and service to the people of our country. But another wonderful attribute that we will remember Comrade Jessie for is that she was a unifier. She spent many hours and kilometers traveling around the country at great cost to her own health on uniting the movement. She was a great leader and also very good at the administrative leadership of the Secretary General's office. She wanted a united ANC, and she worked very hard to unite the branches of the ANC in all its structures. But she was also actively involved where she saw weaknesses in Congress movement entities such as COSATU, as well as the party. She embodied a politics that was neither divisive, mean, nor small. Her politics were empowering and unifying. She understood the immense power of a united people and a united movement as well. There was no difficulty, and indeed there was no challenge that could not be overcome by a people united in purpose and action in Comrade Jessie's views. And so she fought against factionalism and disunity. She stood firm against those who would sow division, who were only interested in personal advancement, who pursued narrow interests, and who also neglected the needs of our people. I think we should, in her memory, and in following her example, strive even harder for unity. Let us build a united nation and a united movement founded on the principles of our Constitution. And I think all of us will agree that Comrade Jessie, lying here, has run her race. Our nation's thoughts and prayers are with Comrade Jessie's family at this very difficult time. The nation does share in your grief. The Dango family, the Whitley family, we share in your grief, and the Duarte family. May you be comforted by the knowledge that the life of this great patriot has inspired many that she worked with, and her contribution will never be forgotten. May we all strive to honor her life by doing everything within our means, sparing neither strength nor courage, to achieve the free and united and equal society for which she so gallantly fought. May her soul rest in eternal peace. Comrade Jessie, we say to you, hamba kahle, mkhonto wesizwe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In the interest of time, would like to call upon the Muslim and the Christian who are going to do the prayers. Jessie was a unifier. She wanted both the Muslim and the Christian prayer. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. I will first translate what I'm going to read in Arabic, so that for the benefit all of us that are here. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. All praise belongs to Allah, the Rabb, the cherisher, the creator, the sustainer of the universe, who is the most compassionate, the most merciful, the master of the day of judgment. You alone do we worship, and you alone do we seek help from. Guide us onto the straight path, the path of whom those you have favored, and not the path of those with whom you are angry, nor the path of those who have gone astray. O Allah, forgive the living and the dead amongst us, and those who are present and those who are absent, and the young and the old, and the male and the female. O Allah, whom you grant life amongst us, keep him alive with faith, and whom you cause to die, grant him death upon faith. Amin. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وشاهدنا وغائبنا وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وأنثانا. اللهم من أحييته منا فأحيه على الإسلام ومن توفيته منا فتوفه على الإيمان. قال الله تعالى في شان حبيب إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Good afternoon, my dear brothers and sisters in faith and belief. I also want to take this opportunity to convey our sincere condolences to you as a family. May our loving Father also grant you what is needed to you during this time of bereavement. We had the opportunity also to visit Auntie Jessie, and also, like many have said, her door was always open and she warmly welcomed us into her home where we could sit and also speak to her. We are truly grateful, and it's a great honor for us to stand here today and also share a prayer with you. So I ask you please all just to bow your heads in prayer, please. Our dearest, loving, kind and merciful Father, we do thank Thee this afternoon that we can come to You, Lord, the one who is the giver of life. You are the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And Lord, You give life. And Lord, in this instance, You have intervened, Father, and You've taken a loved one, Father, from a dear family. Lord, You know the wonderful gift that You have bestowed upon us as Your people, to a family, a mother, a sister, one who has, Father, treasured communities. And Lord, we thank You for this wonderful gift. And this that You have implanted into Auntie Jessie, Father, the love, the skill, the dedication and commitment, Lord. Lord, this has filtered down to many, especially this dear family. Father, and it's time like this of bereavement where we come to You, Lord, and we ask You, Father, that You may comfort each and every one, Father, that is going through this difficult time. We look up unto You, and we ask You, Lord, please, may You strengthen this dear family during this time. Father, and we know that as You have now, Father, intervened, and Lord, have placed Auntie Jessie into a realm, Lord, which is known to You, Father, and we thank You, and we know that You will safeguard, Lord, and we know Your mercy is endless, Father, beyond this world. Your grace and mercy goes beyond this that we know. And Father, may You grant unto her what is needed, Father, also. Lord, please be with this family during this time. We come this and we humbly ask it in Your Son's name. Amen.
Thank you very much. We'll hand over to the police. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now call upon Chaplain Mashiane to lead us with this sermon. Chaplain.
To the President of the Republic of South Africa, the former President, to the management and the families of our late sister Duarte, there is only one message that we can leave to the family. When you read Psalm 23, I think it's the message that will comfort you, the family, and the friends, and to the community where our sister was living. It says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." That is a message that we want to leave to you, that you are not alone in these difficult times. Then I will also say that as the family, you are sitting there, asking yourself a lot of questions. You say that in the chair that you are sitting on, then you just feel that you cannot even fall. Then this is how God is carrying you in this difficult time that we have. There is a message that I like the most, that in times like this, it says a footprint. Then, Lord, in the time that I needed you the most, that where were you? Then the answer is, my child, I am the one who is carrying you. Even now, God is carrying you. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. I will now call upon Sergeant Kanyata to come and undress the South African national flag and hand it over to Major General Tema of the South African Police Service, who will then hand it over to the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency, Mr. President Cyril Ramaphosa, and to be received by the Chief Mourners. And this will bring us to the end of the official funeral.
Can I call upon Kari Sida just to come and actually set out how the Muslim rites prayers will now take place? Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. The procedure is very simple. We will carry the coffin to a dedicated place, which is just behind this marquee, and we will read a prayer which is called Janaza Salah, which is a prayer where we will say Allahu Akbar, Almighty is the greatest. Salutations upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, and peace be upon Abraham and his family. Then we will say Allahu Akbar, the very same prayer that I read, Allahumma ighfir li hayyina wa mayyitina, all those who are alive, who are dead, all those that are young, they are old, male and female. Then we will say Allahu Akbar again, and then we complete that prayer, which will take about 2 or 3 minutes. Thereafter, we would ask everybody to stand back a little bit for a few moments. We will give the right to the immediate family to take the coffin to the graveside. And in Islam, in Sharia, woman's dignity is of utmost importance, so we would want the immediate family to lower the body into the grave until a certain point that it is covered. Thereafter, the marquee that is there, we will open the sides. Everybody will be given the opportunity of filling and putting sand on the grave. So it's a very simple procedure. We would ask the members of the community and the Muslim community and members of the funeral organizing committee to please come forward and take the janaza for janaza salah. Thank you.